We don't have an immediate crisis in terms of debt. In fact, for the next 10 years, it's going to be in a sustainable place.
We do not have an immediate debt crisis.
We do not have a debt crisis right now, but we see it coming. We know it's irrefutably happening.
Well, Lanny Davis, you've been hoping, you've been praying, some would say you've been whining about wanting this purple moment when Republicans and Democrats, blue and red, conservative and liberal, can reach across the aisle and agree on something. So there we go. We've got Obama, Boehner, and Ryan all agreeing that we don't have an immediate debt crisis. Are you happy now, Lanny Davis?
I'm not only happy, but I'm unhappy that you didn't add what each one of them said after that statement, so it's an out-of-context statement.
Oh.
After they all said that, they said, so now, Lanny Davis, get off our back.
I'm sorry, we missed that.
No, I didn't hear that.
An egregious oversight. But really, is this the best thing to agree upon? Because I don't think the nation is better off with our leaders kind of whistling past the graveyard of the looming debt.
Well, in my column today in The Hill and goes elsewhere, I gave an analogy to a ticking time bomb in the middle of your living room, and you say to your kids, now this thing is going to blow the house up. It may be 5 years, it may be 10 years, but it's 100% certain this house is going to blow up. But don't worry about it, it's not immediate.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, how is this a good thing? I mean, we're never going to get anything done because there's never an immediate debt crisis in their minds. And so you know what Washington is like. If there's not an immediate reason to do something, they're not going to do it.
Well, I have to say, because I'm a Democrat and because I've supported his policies almost 100%, that on the debt, Barack Obama, in my opinion, has a blind spot. That he's the one person in America. He's not the same as Speaker Boehner, who's been voted for by elected representatives of about half of a political body. He's not the same as a United States Senator. He's the one person that in American history has to lead. Not because everyone's already for something, but because they're not. And he has not led. He has been behind, or he has said, there isn't anything immediate, which is a classic example of my disappointment, which is the word I used, that on the debt, this is a moral issue about his children. We've used credit cards, I say this all the time on this program, and then we dump the receipts of these credit cards on our children's lap, and we not only are now hearing leaders say, don't worry about it, it's not immediate, it's just going to blow up a couple of years from now, but we give them the obligation to pay for our bills, and I say that's immoral. That's the word I use on this program. It's a moral issue, and the president doesn't use the moral issue word.
I think it's even worse than that, because the president by law is supposed to produce a budget at a certain date. He doesn't do it. He hasn't done it yet. Then when he puts forth a budget, it is a political document, not a real document. And in fact, the president has said to members of Congress, "Oh yeah, we're going to get our budget out eventually, don't worry." But he said it will reflect our policies, not reality. And when you say the president doesn't lead, it's worse than that. He doesn't even try. He throws out a document that hasn't even received one vote from anyone on Capitol Hill.
Well, let's remember what's making this a purple moment of hypocrisy and failure of leadership. That's the unfortunate bipartisanship here, is that the Republicans have done the same thing. Let's take the Paul Ryan quote budget, or that quote budget the House passed by a supposedly Republican group of House members. What they don't tell us, which is misleading, is that the Paul Ryan budget would add 2 or 3, 2 if you're very optimistic, 3 if it's probable, $1 trillion to the national debt, which is currently $17 trillion by the next 10 years. Now, for conservative, and I think quite sincere man, Paul Ryan, doesn't tell you that, then they're all in the same purple hypocrisy, which is why this is one moment that at least your listeners, who are often critical of my being a liberal, should at least agree with me that there is hypocrisy on both sides.
Well, but Lanny, I mean, I want to ask you about the president's trip to Israel, but I just got to pull on this thread just for a second. He does, I mean, it may add to the debt, but ultimately in 10 years it does bring the budget to balance. You agree with that, don't you?
Well, I don't agree that it will, but I give him credit for trying to. I think he takes a lot of very optimistic economic growth assumptions, and he does nothing about closing tax loopholes, which conservative Senator Tom Coburn, conservative Mike Crapo from Idaho, and the Simpson-Bowles Commission believe that we ought to close these tax loopholes, and all that Paul Ryan does is cut spending, which I believe is necessary, and Medicare and Social Security need to be restructured and need to be brought down.
But at least he's trying to balance the budget. The Democratic plan that's emerging from the Senate would increase taxes to make it work by $1.2 trillion, $1.9 trillion.
And it'll still be out of budget, or out of balance.
Well, they're increasing taxes by at least closing tax loopholes as a starting point. And then I do think we're never going to pay this now looming $20 trillion debt, which is approaching the gross domestic product of this country, unless we raise taxes. I've said that on this program. We have to go back to the tax rates, which is to raise the tax rates back to the Clinton years.
Oh, I know. Lanny, we know you love to raise taxes. We know that.
I give Brian credit for trying.
All right. Let me switch to Israel right now, because obviously the president is Israel for the first time. We had Caroline Glick yesterday, senior contributing editor of Jerusalem Post, and, the president is meeting right now with the leadership of the Palestinian government, Palestinian Authority. She said that, quoting her now, essentially his goal, Obama's goal, is to empower the unelectable, incredibly radical left in Israel to put pressure on the Israeli government for whatever concessions he wants it to make to the PLO. Do you see it that way?
No, this is someone who is sort of in a broken record of reading last year's headlines or even 4 years ago. I think there are lots of things that President Obama did over the last several years that undermine confidence in our relationship with Israel. I think his speech and presence yesterday, you could see, let's follow the lead of Bibi Netanyahu, historically no great fan of Barack Obama's. It was a magnificent speech by President Obama. I think it ought to clear up the doubts of people who are just, and my friend Josh Bolton ought to at least give him credit for what he said yesterday.
Well, we'll have John Bolton on in just about half an hour, so we'll give him the opportunity. Lanny Davis, it's always good to talk to you. How's the book doing? You're in good shape?
I said that this could be a purple moment where Bolton and Davis agree on something.
You know what, Lanny? Wow. Tune in. Maybe you'll hear it. All right. Thanks, Lanny. Always good to talk to you.
Have a good morning.
6:45 now, WMAL.